A civil society organization collaborates with the religious leaders and climate activists to call on policymakers to take urgent action in addressing the growing challenges of climate change in Nigeria. This call was made at the Interfaith Dialogue on Climate Change Summit held in Abuja, which aimed to empower faith and community leaders to advocate for climate justice and propose solutions to Nigeria's climate crisis. In his keynote address theme, Global Climate Crisis and the Role of Faith-Based Advocacy, the Executive Director of Lux Terra Leadership Foundation emphasized the urgent need for religious organizations and civil society groups to mount pressure on policymakers. He also stressed the need for strong legal frameworks, incentives, and sanctions to combat environmental degradation, calling for a radical shift in lifestyle to protect the environment for future generations. He also decried the widespread pollution and lack of proper waste management in Nigeria, noting that urgent policy interventions is needed.
In spite of the tremendous extent of recycling technology in the 21st century society, there is still very little investment in recycling technology here in Nigeria, outside the crude and dehumanizing engagement of many young Nigerians, they call them panteka or something, who have been reduced to scavengers, rummaging through our stinking dustbins with their bare hands every day. While the rest of the world is transforming organic waste to electric power and effectively recycling glass bottles, papers, plastic containers, aluminum cans, here in Nigeria, we simply pollute the environment with our used wares and buy new ones. We seem to have adjusted ourselves comfortably to a high level of noise pollution in Nigeria, with all the attendant health hazards. Senior public officers who drive around blaring sirens with deafening noises are a major contributor to this noise pollution. They are not only destroying our eardrums and raising our blood pressures, they are also raising the level of resentment and aggression of the poor citizens and vulnerable species against those who claim to be their leaders and stewards. Finally, effective policy and legal frameworks with accompanying sanctions and incentives need to be put in place to tackle these problems. The challenges may be enormous, but with adequate political will and religious commitment, they are not insurmountable. I hereby challenge all categories of leaders in both public and private sectors to show good example and lead the way in the radical change of lifestyle that nurturing a sustainable environment would require of us all. Individual citizens and pressure groups, including religious bodies and civil society organizations, must take responsibility for what happens to the present and future generations of human beings.
The Chief Executive Officer, Connected Development, highlighted the role of faith communities in climate action, especially during significant religious periods like Ramadan and Lent. He decried the country's poor access to climate finance, stating that Nigeria has only secured about 20% of available funds, most of which are loans instead of grants.
We're losing track of the implication of taking the messages to the people to take the right actions. And not because we don't have the legal and regulatory framework. So we believe that because Nigeria is a religious country, and we also believe that faith brings about justice. And climate change itself is about justice, where we can co-inhabitate without crisis. And this crisis is already here. And this crisis is influenced by the impact of climate change. So today we're saying, how can we use faith to bring the messages, the kind of actions we want to see? If you look at climate finance, Nigeria is not doing well. We're not doing well. We're not accessing billions of dollars that we're supposed to access to help us mitigate, to help us to adapt, and to ensure that we have technology that would help us be more resilient so that when there's rainfall, when there's drought, we can respond adequately. Today we're experiencing food shortage. There is food crisis because of its impact. So we're saying let's use faith to ensure justice, to ensure that Nigeria gets the respect and attention from the international community. $1 billion was committed during the Paris Accord. Later this year, Nigeria will join world leaders at the Brazil summit. What are we taking to Brazil? We're saying that as connected development, we're mobilizing faith to get justice, to ensure Nigeria is at the center, because we're mostly affected by the impact of climate change. That this is injustice, and we must roll back on that injustice.
Divisive rhetorics to look at more conflict transformation initiatives in communities, especially where problems have happened in the past. Faith, science, and governance must work together. Everyone has a role to play. So while not everybody may be guilty of a particular problem, everybody has a responsibility. Religious leaders should teach more about sustainability and environmentally friendly practices, more ethical when it comes to intergenerational justice, but also generational justice. Government officials need to implement more greener policies and make sure these are respected. Professionals and activists have an important role when it comes to innovative solutions, driving advocacy, but also in educating, especially religious leaders, in understanding the challenges better. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that even if the last hour, the day of judgment, was to come upon you when you were going with a seedling to go and plant it, he said, go ahead and plant it. He taught us in that hadith, that statement, that narration, that hope and action must persist no matter the crisis. Today, we're trying to plant more seeds of awareness and policy and unity. Let us act now before it is too late or before we don't have the opportunity. Now is the time to plant more seeds of change before it is too late.